thank everybody for joining us on behalf of the Republican Committee and the Lewis County Farm Bureau. We just wanted to have an opportunity for the residents to meet their candidates. They're running on the Republican primary. It's going to be a discussion. We have some questions set up for the candidates, and we'll run through them. We'll have an opening statement and a closing statement at the end of it. I'd like to introduce now John Wagner. He's our Director of County Relations with New York Farm Bureau, and he's agreed to be our moderator for this evening. Thank you.
If the candidates would like to take a seat, that's fine. So as Joe said, yes, my name is John Wagner. I work with the New York Farm Bureau. I drove up this evening from Madison County, so a resident from outside the area, but I work frequently with the Lewis County Farm Bureau. And I've done this a few times in the past, and the Farm Bureau has sponsored these candidate events. We're proud to collaborate with the Lewis County Republican Committee on these. So just a few reminders, as Joe said. We'll start with each candidate giving a 2-minute opening remark, and then we'll have a series of 4 areas that we're going to discuss. We'll have 2 questions from each area, and then at the end we'll have 3-minute closing statements. In the front row for the candidates, Mr. Jennings here has a 15-second reminder, and he'll give you that when you have 15 seconds remaining in your answer. Again, reminding everyone, the candidates and the audience, this is not a debate. There'll be no back and forth between the candidates. It's just an informational session for you to hear their thoughts on a variety of issues. We ask that you, the crowd, please do not interrupt the candidates. The candidates have been asked not to interrupt each other, to each give themselves their 2 minutes of time. And then we'll have a great discussion, hopefully, and then we'll go from there. So we flip the coin. What a way to figure out who goes first and who goes second. So we'll start with candidates from District 5. And we're going to keep this very informal, so I'm going to be using the candidates' first names. So Dick will have this opening statement, and you'll be first. And you can either stand there at the microphone, or we'll hand them back and forth. I think you guys agreed to hand them back and forth. So when you begin speaking, your 2 minutes of opening statement will start, and watch Mr. Jennings for his 15-second reminder. Good evening. There you go.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming tonight. I'm Richard Chartrand. I'm the legislator for District 5, which is mostly the village of Lowville. I've been very proud to represent District 5 since 1/1/14 to the present day. My experiences, training, along with my dedication and commitment to our community over the years make me uniquely qualified to represent District 5. I look forward to your continued support and to allow me to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next opening statement will be from Vinnie.
Hi, my name is Vinnie Nortz. I'm from Moroughan originally, moved to Lowville, Bright Lights. I've been here for 40-some years. I live on DeWitt Street. I've worked at Kraft for 41 years. I'm there as quality control, mine production, warehouse, third shift facilitator. I believe my skills at Kraft qualified to work in many areas with many people. I'm very active in the community. I'm a youth soccer coach, a youth basketball coach. At the present time, I am a New York State football official, also a New York State track and field official. I'm a 32-year member of the Lowville Fire Department, holding the office of Vice President and President. I've also served on the Lewis County Origin team. My wife and I live on DeWitt Street. We raised 4 kids. We're all down the area now. I feel that I'm here to give you a chance to change your direction, to have a choice. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now we'll move to the candidates from District 6, and first to give their opening statement will be Andrea.
Thank you. I am Andrea Moroughan. I do represent District 6. I have lived on Pine Grove Road my entire life. I also have been on the bus driver for 34 years. I was a town justice in the town of Watson for 17 years. And this is my 10th year as being Lewis County legislator. I've enjoyed all of my jobs. I do have 3 children and 3 grandchildren. I enjoy being a legislator for the many different opportunities it's offered me. In fact, this morning I was on Soil and Water Board meeting, and tomorrow all day I will be at a convention in Carthage. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last opening statement will be from Steve.
Good evening. My name is Steve Stogsdill. I'd like to thank the Farm Bureau and the Republican Party for hosting the event, as well as Lowville Academy for letting us use the auditorium. Just to be clear, I'm not a politician or a public speaker, so please excuse any of the notes that I have in front of me. If I didn't have these, I would probably just be spitting out alphabet soup all day. I was born and raised here in Lowville. I attended LACS and then moved to Copenhagen. When I finished school, I decided to go in the Navy, where I was stationed in Norfolk, Virginia for the first 5 years, and was part of Drug Operations Task Force in the Caribbean on multiple tours, and then was part of Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm, where I received the Navy Achievement Medal for performing depot level repairs on our 5-inch gun mount while keeping us in service and underway in a war zone. I then received orders for my short duty to go to the USS Constitution, where my duties consisted of being the command gunnery officer, the chief master of arms, and the command duty officer, where I was responsible for the ship's operations while the captain and all the senior officers were not available. I ended my 8.5-year enlistment on Old Ironsides and decided to remain in Boston for about a year, and found out how expensive it was to live there, and decided to move back home where my roots were, and with a lot of help from my mom, she got me going again. I worked a few different places after moving back here, and finally settled into being lead supervisor and rental manager at Buckingham Harbor over in Krogan for 10 years, and I'm currently working at Lowville Farmers Co-op, where I've been for just over 2 years. I have 3 children. Julian, which is almost 14 years old and plays 3 different sports and loves anything with a motor on it. Roy, which will be turning 17 in a few months, plays volleyball.
That is time.
Oh, I'm sorry. But I'm looking forward to representing as District 6 legislator. Thank you.
So thank all the candidates for their opening statements. Steve, hang on to the mic because you'll be first in this first round of questioning. So the questions we have tonight are collaboration between the Lewis County Republican Committee and Farm Bureau, who work to generate these questions. Our 4 topic areas include county finances, economic development, health and human services, and the future, what's next. So we'll start with county finances, and the first question for all candidates, Steve being first. The question will be, budgeting for the county and all of its diverse financial responsibilities is a large part in the role of legislator. Please explain your stance on balancing the need to maintain and improve services and programs while remaining responsible to taxpayers. And you may begin.
If I become legislator, I will look at the budget very responsibly to see how we can improve services so we can keep taxes down. Perhaps there may be some programs that are not as vital as they used to be, or that once were, and we can look again to see if they are still needed, making us able to improve other programs and services while maintaining responsibility to the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you. Andrea will be next.
Okay, thank you. The county legislators have continued to improve living conditions within Lewis County without raising taxes. The county has increased taxes just one time in the last 5 years. I think we have a great fund balance right now, and we have some money set aside for a rainy day. Thank you.
Okay. Vinnie, is your opportunity now?
Saying the legislators do the budget by themselves is kind of a misnomer. There's a lot of people involved in this, starting with committee heads, committee chairs, the people involved. They present their budget to the legislators for review. They know the day-to-day workings, they know what they need. They also know what they wish they could have. As a legislator, it'd be up to us to separate the working budget and the capital budget, the haves and wishes. Right now, we do have a very positive balance. That is something that we have to keep track of very close, because as we've seen in the past, balances have a way of disappearing, and in a hurry too. We have to make sure that it's maintained to avoid large tax increases to make up the difference. Thank you.
And finally, Dick, your 2 minutes on this question.
Okay, thank you. While budgeting for the county, I was able to implement a master project list, which is like a long-range plan. You look at each project that you've got to have and you rate them using different formulas like life safety, the positive effect for the county in its long-range plan, and the useful life of the building that is being replaced. We replaced a 100-year-old building. We upgraded the building so our equipment would endure longer and perform better, and it will keep our equipment cleaner and last longer, so that reduces cost. We remodeled the DSS building on Stowe Street. That was 60% reimbursable from the state. This was able to be done because we improved our fund balance from $5 million to $20 million plus over 9 years. When I took over, we had $5 million fund balance, and we couldn't do much with it because that wasn't a hell of a lot for a rainy day. So now we've got that there where we can finish the project and not put the burden on the taxpayers. And as you've heard earlier, we haven't raised taxes only once in the last years. Additionally, to save money, we purchased the Lowville Elementary School for DSS people when they went down there. We then sold it for what we bought it for, and we saved a year plus of rent for the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on to the mic because you'll be first in this next round. So still on the topic of county finances, our next question, again, Dick, you'll be the first to respond. Are there areas of the county's operations and initiatives where you as a lawmaker feel there's a way to find to reduce expenses?
Okay, yes, we implemented an equipment replacement plan, and that reduces our need to put extra money into repairing worn-out equipment. When I became a legislator, we had a 10 or 11-year-old plow truck. We were actually putting more money into it than we would have had to buy a brand new truck. Our goal now is to continue a 5-year replacement plan. We've been able to do that thus far. We then put in a solar system that produces money to cover 1/2 of our electric costs for the county and 1/2 for the hospital. We continue to build energy efficient buildings, reducing heating and cooling costs. And an analysis of the services we provided has been done, and since we haven't raised taxes in quite a while and inflation goes up 2-3% a year, we've taken a lot of stuff out just to be able to maintain our process. Thank you.
Thank you. And at any time, if the candidate needs me to repeat the question that we're on, just let me know and I'll repeat the question that we're on. And you're up.
County operations, and there's more than one way to reduce it. But right now, we're coming off one of the largest capital expenditures in our history. We have given the employees of Lewis County some of the best facilities to work with. We've given them the equipment and what they know what they need to do. I'm saying let's wait to see how this plays out. Let's see if we can get a return on our investment. These employees that we have are some of the best. Now they have the tools. Maybe we don't need to streamline it. But we'll do constant review, and at the end of the year, see if it delivers the results we're looking for.
Okay, thank you. Andrea.
I agree with what has already been said, but I would add that the Board of Legislators has done to reduce expenses is add a county purchasing department to purchase supplies and equipment. This has improved efficiency, ensuring the maximum value for each dollar spent by the county.
Thank you. Steve, you'll be the last person to respond to this round.
I think we should start looking at the programs and services that are no longer effective that we could remove. This is also an area where we could use help from the citizens to see what inputs they have to help us save money. Everybody's out all the time on the roads and see everything that's going on. With your help, I think if something gets brought to our attention, we would be able to solve that problem, maybe get rid of the problem. By listening to you guys, it's a way that we can retain transparency to the taxpayers as well as reduce spending.
All right, thank you. So that completes that round of questioning. We're going to move on to economic development, and Steve will be first in this round as well. Question for the candidates in this round is, what is your role as a legislator in bringing economic stability to the county. So again, what do you feel your role as a legislator is in bringing economic stability to the county, Steve?
To try and uplift small businesses, offer easier zoning permits for stores outside of town limits by extending the services. Room for growth can be expanded in almost every direction outside of the town's limits, especially going towards Watson number 4 road. After 50 years, I was kind of expecting more businesses to almost reach Watson by now. So there's room for growth there. We can expand in every area. This could also be accomplished by using ARPA money, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, for infrastructure, as well as assistance from the IDA in many towns of Lewis County. But I am much more familiar with the area of Lowville and Watson.
Thank you. Andrea, your 2 minutes on this topic.
Okay, this is my job as Lewis County legislator is to keep taxes low and the economy thriving. With continued support from our government agencies, this is possible.
Okay, thank you. Vinnie, your turn.
We pretty much agree on the same thing. We got to keep the taxes down. I think the way that we should do it is to facilitate growth. Now, the growth that I'm thinking about is more not giant factories like Kraft, AMF, or Mackey, which is a new name in Meehan, but small private businesses, small trades. That's niche in our community and the state that we need. Not everybody can go to college. Not everybody makes a living going to college. But a lot of people make some damn good livings doing private business. Let's reduce the rules and regulations. Let's make it easier for the private businessman, the small businessman, to do what he needs to do to make a profit, help this community out. That's an income. That's taxes. They're one of us. Also, let's promote help BOCES with the trades. Let's get some more electric. Let's get more mason. Let's get more whatever. But let's look at that as our avenue to expand and keep things the same. Rate the same. Excuse me.
Thank you. And last person in this round, Dick, you have 2 minutes on this question.
Okay, thank you. My role as a legislator is to continue supporting an already thriving economy, to continue to appoint qualified people, for example, the planning department, the IDA, and naturally Lewis, which drive a lot of our economic development process right now. It's helped local people acquire the skills necessary for entry-level jobs at the JCC campus. Trades came in and outfitted a lot of people with carpenter tools and everything that they needed, materials to build. And they had 24 out of 26 within 60 days of the course get jobs with local contractors. Many of them are my friends. And they talked to me and told me how happy they were that we were able to do that program. COVID came in and put a stop to that program for a little while with JCC. They are now rebounding. They're planning new courses, and they plan to implement them soon. Thank you.
Thank you. The second question in our round on economic development related to agriculture. Obviously, the Farm Bureau here tonight and me here tonight, we're going to ask some agricultural questions. So, county government cannot determine how much dairy farmers in the county receive for their milk. They can't control the cost of farm equipment or what's required in labor law for their employees. But what can the Board of Legislators do to help improve the financial stability of those depending on agriculture for their livelihood? Dick, you have the first 2 minutes on this.
Okay. County government has tried to help the dairy farmers. We held a sensing meeting about 2.5 years ago, which never got back on track at the Lowville Fire Hall. But we've tried such things as attracting a meat processing plant. We all thought we were there, and other counties took over. We tried a refrigeration facility. I believe Kraft was looking for some refrigeration because they're sending stuff to Syracuse, as I was told. That did not we couldn't get a sponsor to take that over. And then we talked about a major milk processing plant. You folks are very know more than I do about that, but I, for one, would support that if we can get it started. I'll tell you from the fire hall meeting, you've got large farmers, you've got medium farmers, and you've got family farmers. What benefits one of them doesn't necessarily benefit another one. And I think that's why we've had trouble getting that. But I'd like to see that started again. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinnie, your 2 minutes on this question.
What can I say? Part of the reason why I'm here, why my family's here, why we made a living is because of dairy. I worked 41 years in craft. I understand the relationship between the farm and the manufacturer, processor, however you want to do it. We have to make sure that we have processing facilities available. We have a small one started in Lyons Falls. He's asked to potentially expand. I understand we're looking at facilities out of the county too, but we also take our milk. Then there's also finding the niche. We got our cheese curd manufacturers, O'Brien and Schultz's. We got some dairies that are producing A2 milk, which are lactose intolerant people. There's a market for that. But we can't look just at dairy. Agriculture is more than that in Lewis County. You've got cattle, you've got meat processors, you've got Red Barn, Nortz, Millers. You've got people raising goats for milk, goat cheese, whatever. Also, you've got the wineries, you've got orchards. What I would like to see expanded is a farm to table. More local produce, more local products going to schools, senior citizens, wherever. Let's look for that. Let's keep these niches going and give them, the farmer, the dairy farmer, a place to have his milk process. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea, your 2 minutes.
Thank you. The county has supported the farmers by keeping taxes low and keeping the economy thriving. Also, the legislators hired consultants to help figure out what to do with the extra milk in the county. They are still working with all the producers, and actually I was a member of that committee. And I want to thank the farmers who have thought outside the box to make cheese curd, which I'm truly like. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And final person in this round on this question, Steve, your answer.
For me as a legislator, I would try and help find funding for the Lewis County Co-op owned milk processing plant and maybe get that up and running. So when companies like Kraft that are completely full of milk, the farmers will have an additional place to take their milk instead of just dumping it. During COVID, price per 100 was $26. Now it's down to about $16. But either way you look at it, when you're dumping milk, you're dumping profits right down the drain. That isn't helping any of the farmers at all. I'd like to see whole milk, chocolate milk, and the cheeses brought back into the school systems more than what they are. That would increase the demand. I'd also like to create a forum of farmers to help us find out what we can do to help them. I don't have all the ideas. I grew up working on farms, but I've never been management on farms or owned a farm or anything like that. So I'm kind of outside of my box as it would go to find out how I can save them money. I would like to maybe take another look at the acreage tax to see if we might be able to lower that for them. Other than that, I would need their input to make any decisions to help them. Thank you.
I'm just going to ask the candidates, do you guys mind if we go off script for a minute and I ask one follow-up question to this topic? You guys okay with that? Okay. So recently, the New York State Legislature just finished their session again here in Albany. And the Democratic-controlled Assembly and State Senate passed about 3 or 4 more bills that will be very detrimental to the agricultural industry across New York State. So, from my point of view as an outsider, Lewis County is pretty much a very Republican town and a very Republican county. How can you as county legislators, though, try to bridge a gap, or how can the county legislature as a complete body try to bridge a gap and do some education to help the industry, as we're so dominated by New York City officials? Just a broad question. And we'll just use the same order that we just finished up with that round, so we'll get off again. So if Dick could go first and then we'll work our way down, that'd be great. So again, I'm just looking for like a broad statement, you know, again, how can a Republican county like Lewis County have any kind of an effect on an overall Democratic state legislature? What can we do?
Some of the things we've started is we have a lobbying outfit now that the county's paying for it. That's lobbying in Albany to get things passed. We're working hard on the side-by-side registration so that we can control those vehicles better. Additionally, we've got 2 Republican representatives now down there, Mark Walzer, who is not bashful and not afraid to raise points. We've talked with him a couple of times, and with the and I can't remember the rest of the budget, but there's a part where they were going to take the solar farms and reduce how they're appraised. That would have been very detrimental to everybody that's getting to do with solar farms. It would have affected our pilots, it would have affected the landowners and everything else. They were able to get the existing projects, the wind and solar, exempted from that new reappraisal process. Now, it's going to go into the new builds process. I don't want to fool anybody about it, but we'll work the same methodology on when that happens, and then we'll have some sensing sessions. On the farmers part of it, I'd support setting up a trip to Albany with representatives from your organization. I've done it before when I was down there. It's not hard to do.
Thank you. Vinnie?
Sometimes you talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and you talk about Albany. About the only way you ever really get Albany's attention, especially the Democrats, is in the wall. If you have these prices, all these add-ons that are giving you, it's going to increase your prices. You can't eat it. You can't keep taking that off your bottom line. It's going to have to be passed on. Eventually, they're going to see that they're, well, I don't say eventually. They don't always see everything anyways. But it's got to hit the wall. You've got to pass it on. You can't eat it. I'm sorry. I mean, that's just capitalism, you know. They want to do it, let's make them pay for it.
Thank you. Andrea, you'd be nice to know the same words before.
No, I forgot what I was saying.
So basically, I was just trying to ask the question of, you know, what could a Republican-led county here in upstate New York, how can you guys affect any change on a Democratic-controlled state legislature?
Well, we always try to push back by sending letters and expressing how we feel. And I agree with what Dick has said. Other than that, I don't really know what we can do.
Thank you. Steve?
First, we can hope that the Democrats don't stay in control long enough that they'll actually go through. Other than that, I spoke to a farmer that told me that politics and farming it never coincides with each other. So, short of just not doing what they suggest we do and ignoring what they put on us for demands, I don't have any other answers. We shouldn't listen to them if they're not going to have our interest in as the best interest.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you guys for indulging me right there. I appreciate that. So we'll move on to our next round, and our first speaker on this round will be Vinnie. So Vinnie will have the microphone first in this round. And our question involves health and human services. So health and human services, and our first question is, as a legislator, are you willing to provide subsidies to the Lewis County General Hospital for medical services which do not pay for themselves, such as maternity services?
Well, let me start off by saying you don't know how lucky we are to have a hospital here in Lewis County. All my kids were born in Lewis County at the hospital. That the losses are happening, I don't know because I am not privy to the information as to what the budget is. But I know that the legislature also budgets every month for a loss at the hospital. How much what it is, I'm not sure how it's determined. But as for the word subsidies, that makes me a little nervous because subsidies have a way of becoming regular income streams. I would rather see something more like an incentive. I know the hospital is at this time looking, was it Buffalo and Queens, for doctors to move up here, OBGYN, whatever. Let's sweeten the pot a little bit. Let's offer them financial incentives, guarantee them pay for 5 years, help pay off their college loans in return for the service that they would offer us. Offer practice establishment, help them practice. Not only doctors, let's bring nurses and doctors both in, because those are both in short supply. Like I say, incentives versus subsidies in my mind.
All right, thank you. So Dick, you'll be next in this round.
Okay. I've served on the hospital board for 15 years. I had a break in service, so I served it like 8 years and then 7 years. I'm the county legislative representative for the hospital board, so I can speak to a little of the thing. Am I willing to provide subsidies? Yes, 100% I would be willing to buy subsidies. In a recent JCC study in Lewis County, there were a fair amount of taxpayers, constituents, that indicated they would be willing to see us get subsidies as well. We really already did subsidies. It was called IGT, which is an intergovernmental transfer. And we had to fund, if they were going to get like $4 million, we had to fund $2 million of the $4 million for them to get the whole $4 million. In the case of maternity, we've looked at what that service would be in the deficit at, and they're going to be prepared to come to the county legislators and talk it over with them, the hospital administrators and what have you. But watch the paper for the next few days, because there's some real good news coming out of there, I believe, and I can't break it right now, I'm sorry. The maternity is important to me because right now we're living in the country, getting the water down, I won't even go if it's snowing or blowing or what have you. But if you're going to have a baby, you're going to go somehow. So if we could keep them here, it provides another layer of quality of life, to security and warmth and what have you for the families. I think that covers.
All right, thank you. And we'll go all the way down to the end to Steve.
Yes, I do believe that whatever money we could give for subsidies to only cover what the insurance doesn't cover. It's not like we're going to subsidize the entire maternity department. But just to cover what the insurance doesn't. Just to have a maternity ward open for our community, it's a needed service in our area. As it is right now, thankfully my daughter isn't old enough to have to worry about that yet. But to have to go to another county, especially if your delivery date is in the middle of December or January, good luck making it to Watertown or Carthage. It's a necessity to have a maternity department here. And with that, it's not like we're going to subsidize everything. There are other departments that will benefit from that. There's the lab that will be doing all the lab work, the surgical area for emergency C-sections, OBGYNs, maybe we can attract new doctors to come to the area. That means offices in the hospital, and that's rent for the hospital. So there are a lot of other things that can go with that. So yeah, I completely agree with subsidizing.
And finally, in this round, Andrea, and then hang on to the mic because you'll be the first one in the next round.
Thank you. Yes, I would agree with subsidizing the hospital. Recently, money was given to the hospital to upgrade the morgue, which was much needed and hasn't had any attention in years. The reason the maternity wing is not open is not because of lack of funding. It is a lack of staff. Our county setting is not for everyone.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to our second question in the area of health and human services. So I was looking through the questions and I noticed this one here, and it's got a little bit of a personal bent for myself. I have a cousin who recently lost their son 2 years ago to suicide. And it was this Father's Day weekend that she lost her 17-year-old son who was suffering in silence. So the question is, Lewis County has one of the highest suicide rates in New York State. Sometimes based on percentage, it's the highest. What are you prepared to do as a legislator to work with those agencies responsible for the care and treatment of those with mental and emotional needs? And Andrea, you go first for 2 minutes. Thank you.
Lewis County does have the highest suicide rate in the state. It also is a national problem. Not here. As the county legislator, it is my job to support the agencies and groups to help serve everyone in Lewis County with emotional needs. The county did roll out mental health and video series to help people.
Thank you, Andrea. And then we'll go to Steve.
First, any suicide in our community is a great loss. As a legislator, I will show whatever support I can and what's needed to help lowering the number in our county. We do live in a small populated area, and though the number is small, even one is too many. Some ideas that I have are more advertising on radio, training through the hospital, and LACS for parents to help them recognize the signs of suicide in our youth, and to find out what services are working and what's not.
Thank you. And then Vinnie's last in this round.
Which question?
The question again is about suicide and suicide prevention and what you as a county legislator would do to assist.
I would support any reasonable solutions that will lower the suicide rate in Lewis County, such as funding for mental health needs, more manpower is needed to reach out to the people, get training to the schools and stuff like that. One thing, having been in Fort Drum, and it just came to me now, but we had a high rate in that mountain of suicides, and we had soldiers living in those camps. I don't know if that was anything that, if we had a little walk over from that or not, but I would like to check into it now that I've had that thought. But suicide is a very tough issue. We've got really good people working on those issues, but it's hard, and you can see that from the high rate we've got.
Thank you. And last in this session, Vinnie?
I think Lewis County, I don't know what it says. Suicide does hurt. It's not everyone was crying. A lot of people suffer from it. Realizing this, back in 2013, Lewis County formed a Suicide Prevention Coalition. In 2020 or 2021, the University of Chicago came to do what they call the Rural Listening Tour, which was rural counties in New York State. Lewis County was one of them. And one of the things they realized was that one size does not fit all. But all they want us to do for suicide prevention in urban areas doesn't necessarily work here in the country. And being rural is now listed as a cause of suicide. Other than firearms, whatever, being rural alone is enough to be considered suicide. But that being said, the Lewis County Suicide Prevention Coalition has received federal recognition for what they've done. They've gone above and beyond. They are now considered exemplary of how to deal with suicide and the survivors of suicide. I suggest that we fund them and keep them going at full tilt and encourage them. They go to Food Truck Fridays. They're out there all the time. See them, help them. If you got a donation, put it in. The legislators can help fund that too. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, you'll be first in this next round, so if you want to grab the mic. And we're into our final two questions, and this section is titled The Future, What's Next? And this first question is a very broad-based question. What do you believe the future of Lewis County looks like from your viewpoint?
If there are any measures that we can find and put into place to revive our younger generation to work, live, and raise the next generation here in Lewis County, we can easily return to a time when we were more prosperous, and we can absolutely return our county to a family-oriented place to live. It's one of the main reasons that I moved back here after the military. We need everyone's help to accomplish this. Ideas from townships and all residents. We have the means, we just need the right ideas and initiatives. I believe that better times are in store for us. but it's going to be more than just a short-term goal. It's going to take a little bit to get there. Thank you.
Andrea?
Okay, thanks. Quality of life in Lewis County is important. Lewis County is a great place to raise your family. The legislators need to keep the cost of living down, and that is what I will continue to do as a county legislator. Also, the legislators are extending broadband to the county where there is no internet. In 2020, Lewis County had 4,200 homes without internet access. By the end of 2023, over 70% of those homes will be served. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinnie?
I'm doing following up.
Yeah, the question is basically a broad-based question. What do you believe the future of Lewis County looks like?
It's going to be challenging. We're in an era right now where things are changing rapidly. We're talking global climate change, inflation, all the other ills that come from outside worlds coming into Lewis County. But it's positive. We got to make long-range plans. We have to make sustainable long-range financial plans as well. Take a page from the farmers. Adapt. Be optimistic. Be realistic. If something doesn't happen and go as planned, look at what you have done starting in. We can control our future.
Thank you. And Dick, you have the last remarks in this round, and also the first remarks in the next one, so just keep on the microphone. So, your 2 minutes.
Yeah, the future of Lewis County. Manageable taxes, an acceptable quality of life, continued exceptional schools, hospital, and a hospital with maternity and surgical services.
You're going to be first in this next round. Okay.
Thank you.
So our second question in this round, and our final question for this evening. Lewis County, like many other rural upstate New York counties, has seen population loss over the last several decades. That's reflected in the annual 10-year census that we've seen most recently. As a legislator, how would you work to get the county to retain and also attract the next generation of people to reside in Lewis County? So the question is not really just to retain people, but how would you also work to attract people to live and reside in Lewis County? And Dick, you have the first 2 minutes in this question.
Okay, thank you. A lot of it revolves around finances, and we're competing like at the hospital with a 3-county area here, and we've got to be able to pay our employees what they can get in those cases. Because almost everybody that comes up here, they take a look at it, they come knowing what the salary is, but with the hopes that they can live in Lewis County, which they would like to live in, but they can't make the money. So we've got to provide jobs with salaries commensurate with the competition and try to accept the quality of life. We need to fund modern systems for workers to use, such as the broadband you heard mentioned earlier, and that will be accessible in libraries for those that can't afford a computer, don't have a computer, don't want a computer. So I also support the libraries so that we have that avenue to continue with. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinnie, your 2 minutes.
We may make Lewis County a place where you don't want to pass through, where you want to stop and take a look, sort of smell the roses. We have many natural resources here that we can promote to bring them here. I think once they see what we've offered, they'll want to stay or come back and keep coming back, hopefully even retire. I know we have a large military population from Fort Drum as they muster out, find how great we have here in Lewis County. Let's promote some ecotourism. Let's get the people to come in and say, hey, let's go look at Black River or the Stillwater. We've got unused resources like horse trails that sit on in the winter. Let's open those up. Let's do something with them to get people cross-country skiing. Well, once you get their attention, then you offer them chances to work. Let's promote the trades. Again, promote the trades, a small business. You want to open up a coffee shop? We have somebody opening that up. You want to open a bakery? You have that option too. Let's make it a lifestyle choice if they want to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea, your 2 minutes.
Population loss. As a legislator, we need to keep the cost of living down and keep the quality of life high. Keeping taxes down, of course, is the main thing. We do have a lot to offer here. However, country living is not for everyone.
Okay, and finally, Steve.
I think that we're older generational county. I also believe that we have not grown with the younger generation because of the cost of higher and higher taxes, the crime rate, the increased regulations and mandates put on our state and county, where other states make it an easier path for the younger generation to move. North Carolina charges no sales tax, no land tax, no school tax. So what's the benefit of moving back from North Carolina College to come back to New York State? The necessity of college education and costs has made it extremely hard for children to return here. Not only does our county not offer many jobs in the field that our children are taking in college, but they're also limited. With their loan debt, cost of living expenses, and lack of good paying jobs in our area that could cover their expenses, I believe they are starting at a disadvantage by coming back here. I would in turn like the opportunity to work with legislators or the other legislators to ask our state and federal representatives in their help in growing our industry back to what it once was. We can offer more opportunities to our kids that want to return home to their roots. I'm a perfect example of that, coming back home after the military. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Steve, hang on to the mic because you'll be first with closing statements. And just to remind the timekeeper that we have 3 minutes for closing statements. Each candidate has 3 minutes for those. So, Steve, you're first up with your closing remarks.
My closing statement is shorter than my opening. Sorry I didn't get to finish that. In closing tonight, I would like to thank Mrs. Moroughan, Mr. Nortz, and Mr. Chartrand for making the time to come out and help me show the citizens of Lewis County that the representatives are here for them and want to represent them in the best ways that we can. When our country was at the beginning stages, we had great men that accomplished great things, such as our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, and our Bill of Rights, without much of a higher education, wisdom from age, or advanced technologies. We are completely capable of achieving great feats in our county as long as we remain transparent to the citizens and allow their thoughts and ideas to help us make decisions. While I was in the military, I was fortunate enough to be taught that working together will get you much further ahead than working by yourself or in a small group. And since this is a time that I can speak and where most people might still be listening, I would like to say that no matter the results of the upcoming election in November, I truly hope that all legislators, whether you're already in office or you're going to be elected into office, will become more involved with their constituents and what and how they want the representatives to work for them. We are here on behalf and due to as they want things done by ourselves. I'm sure that all my answers were probably not the right answers that many were looking for, but I do know that if I had all the right answers and solved all the problems, that I would probably be running for a much higher office than the legislature. I'd probably get the chance to meet President Trump. To end, I would like to say that this has been a great experience for me, and I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to meet so many people in my community. I had absolutely no idea that my neighborhood was filled with such nice people, and I really am happy that I can call them my neighbors. Please enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you for listening to all of us, and have a happy holiday.
Thank you, Steve. Andrea, your closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and I thank these people at these tables with me, I should say for the Meet the Candidate session. And thank you, Mr. State Farm, for the questions. I also especially want to thank my family and friends for all the support. I also would like to encourage all Republican voters in District 6 to vote in the primary on June 27th, 2023 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Vinnie, your closing statement.
I threw my closing statement out earlier today. I was sitting on my front porch, getting ready to come here. I saw a young gentleman, maybe 10, 12 years old. He had a backpack, 2 bats, baseball glove, uniform, going to play Little League ball, I'm assuming. He was walking down the street. He was safe. He was secure. He was doing something that we've done our whole life, something that we offered here in Lewis County. That being said, I'm sure there's other questions that the public has, voters have, that weren't answered here, never came up. After this meeting, I'll be available if you have something you would like to talk to me about, whatever. Because after today, you've been listening to us. Starting tomorrow, I will be listening to you. I will be working for you. And thank you for this job interview. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinnie. And Dick, your 3-minute closing statement.
Okay. Thank you to all for attending tonight's new candidate session. I hope we were able to give you some information that you may not have had. Ask that you spread that information to all your friends and neighbors. As one of 2 legislators with an engineering degree and extensive knowledge of construction project management, I would like to be re-elected so I can continue to make sure we get the most for our money from our efforts that we are spending. We're finishing our DSS project, which was 60% reimbursable, and that opening will be later this month. It will be announced in the paper and on the televisions. We're then finishing our highway garage this fall, hopefully for the winter. That's going to leave us with a brand new plow trucks with a place to come in and wash and get all the sand, salt, and grease off them. It's going to allow that equipment to last longer and be worth more when it comes time to trade it in. So those projects, in my mind, were well needed and will serve you taxpayers well. Additionally, the hospital project should aid us in obtaining qualified doctors and other health professionals to serve our community better. To give you one of the problems we are having now is with CNAs at the hospital. I attended the BOCES graduation yesterday, and they graduated around 12 or 15 CNAs. Our experience tells us we probably would get 4 or 5 of them the most, and 3 to 5 won't stay over 2 or 3 weeks. It's a terrible job. I couldn't do their job. I think most people would not want to do their job. So somehow we've got to get across that threshold. And we've tried paying for their tuition at the school and training. And lastly, as I've said, I'm on the hospital board of managers as well. I've been on there for 15 years. I can give quite a bit of knowledge and experience to the hospital operations, so we don't keep repeating the non-things that worked and we work harder on the things that will work. I support keeping the hospital in Lewis County. I got involved in that back in the 90s when they wanted to privatize it, and my stance then was no. But before we give it up, we've got to get a way to have it run. And we took it back in-house. We hired the right people to run it. And today I think we've got a pretty good operation at the hospital. Probably the best relationship between the hospital and the Board of Legislators I've seen in the last 20 years. Again, thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you got some knowledge that you can use.
All right, thank you. So at this time, I would like to thank the audience for remaining quiet, listening to the candidates. So I'd ask you to now make some noise and give them all a round of applause. And I would just like to remind everybody that the Lewis County Republican Committee and Farm Bureau, we have 3 more of these events planned in the next week. There'll be an event tomorrow night at the Beaver River Central School. There'll be an event Thursday night right back here in the Lewis County Auditorium where we'll have the sheriff's candidates here for a forum. And then there'll be one final forum next Monday night on the 19th over in the town of Denmark. So again, thank you all for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate you being here. And as Andrea said, remember to make sure you go vote in the primary on the 27th of June. So thank you all again and have a great night.